Start aimed that way. Now I want to spend a few minutes going through with you what we would consider to be the definition between a stance and an alignment. And you'll understand the value in that as we go through it. You see, I think we've used terms that mislead us a little bit and get us into thinking that we're doing something that perhaps we're not. So let me try and explain something to you. Every time you set up to hit a golf ball, you want to do so from what you would consider to be a square stance. Now the stance has nothing to do with the target line in this case. It is simply your body so that your hands and arms can swing around a correct set of positions, if you would. If you were to take your hands and put them together, palm to palm in front of you, you're probably going to see that you are in what I would call a square stance. Well, what is a square stance? Relative to yourself, your shoulders, hips, and thighs are all in line with each other. If you were to drop a board through your body, you would see, if I turn this way, that those three things are again in line. Let me face you and show you another angle of this. If I am here and my palms are together in the middle of my position, my shoulders, hips, and thighs are all in line with each other. This is the position that will allow my golf swing to work from inside out towards the golf ball and back to the inside again in an on-plane motion. That's why we had on-plane swingman out here, so that you could see that. Why do we not get this right? It seems like such a simple idea. Well, first of all, I think we're putting our attention on the wrong place. You see, I can put my feet on this line, so I'm toed up and ready, and I can stand like this. My upper body is going way over there, but my feet say I'm in line. Well, if you understand what you need to do to be correct, you would then know that the feet really didn't establish the position for me to swing my golf club. I was still in a very bad position to initiate a golf swing. Well, we may not ever really get that extremely out of whack, but I want to show you something and help you understand why most of us that play this game are out of whack when we stand in around a golf ball. Watch what happens. Again, I'm going to put myself in what I would call a square stance position. My palms are together in the middle of my body. First thing I'm going to do is to move everything slightly forward. And now I'm going to take what would be my golf grip and I'm going to drop my right hand below my left. Now, when you look at this position, I want you to see what's happened. My shoulders are no longer square to the rest of my body. In taking my position to hold the golf club, my shoulder line's been opened up. I'm no longer in a square stance, and as far as I'm concerned, I've done nothing but put my hands in the golf club around the golf ball. If you don't know that this is happening, and that you're losing your symmetry, if you would, and your square stance is being thrown out of whack simply by putting your hands in a golf club, then you're not setting in to hit a golf ball well. You're creating an opportunity for the club to be swung in a line that's going to go from outside back in again, and not from inside out towards the golf ball before it comes in again. Why does that happen? Well, again, if you look at the position that you create, if at address I'm in a position where my shoulders start aimed that way, and when I take my hands and arms up, they're going to go over here. If I start from a square position and I'm in this relationship, when I take my hands and arms up, all of a sudden I'm here. My hands and arms did the same thing, but you can see the difference in how my body responded, where I am relative to being able to swing my golf club. All I did was adjust this line. So I want you to understand that before you hit a golf ball, you must establish and re-establish, if you would, this position with your upper body. Don't spend so much time worrying about your feet. They don't matter. So I know we like to go on the range and drop a shaft down and put our feet to it. But what good is that if I'm standing like this, getting ready to hit a golf ball? Okay, so if you want to use a shaft and you want to get into that from a practice perspective, please do this at least. Put it at your heels so that your feet haven't done anything strange, because you know when you toe your foot out, it's not going to look and the same square line if you would. So put it towards your heels if you're going to use it at all. My square stance. How do I practice making sure that I'm right? Because you see, when you're on a golf course, knowing that you're in that square stance, difficult to do unless you've practiced, and just know that it's another thing that you've got down at 99% correct. So how do I do this? Well, there's a couple of things you can do. One that I'm going to show you is something that you can do at home, and you can do it using a mirror. Do what I had done. I put my hands together in the middle of my body, palm to palm. I take my golf grip position, and I now look in the mirror, and what I'm going to see is that I have a little bit of a visual of my right leg and my right shoulder. Well, that tells me that I've now gone into an open position. Okay? I don't want that before I swing a golf club. I want to be square. What do I do with my mirror? I get used to taking that position, and then using my hips as my master aligners, I'm going to square everything back up again. So in the mirror again, I want to recreate what I had seen when I started. Front thigh, front shoulder, not front thigh, front shoulder, back shoulder. So again, hands together, drop one down, rotate it back until I'm in a square position again. Easy to do and easy to see when you get used to doing it. What I want you to avoid is thinking that all you've got to do is rotate around again. Well, I don't want you to screw it up on the other side of things. So it isn't as simple as saying, well, there's where I'm starting, so I'm just going to turn this way. Well, now you've turned too much, and now you've got your shoulder line going too much to that side. So it isn't as simple as just turning. It's getting used to how much you individually have to recreate from a rotational perspective to get those shoulders back into a square stance position. So allowing myself to swing on plane will be more easier to do from a square stance. Now, what is the difference between a square stance and an alignment? Since I'm always going to swing from a square stance, I want to be able to talk about how I position my body in that square stance relative to my target line. If I simply want to hit a golf ball along the target line towards the target, then the easiest thing for me to do to accomplish that is to set my body up so that I'm in a square stance, as always, with what we would call a square alignment. The square alignment means that I've taken my square stance and put it parallel to my target line. Square stance, square alignment. That will allow me to swing on plane from inside out towards the golf ball back to inside again. If I wish to curve the golf ball, okay, so if you've had a hard time understanding how to curve this, if I want to create a stronger draw, for example, I've got to go around a tree. Well, what I'm going to do is to leave my club face relative to my target, take my square stance, and now rotate that so that it's aiming to the right. Now my square stance is in what I would call a closed alignment. I'm not in a closed stance. I'm in a square stance, but my alignment has been closed relative to my target line. This will allow the path of my club, still swinging on plane relative to me, to work its way from inside out towards the golf ball, out across my target line before it comes back to the inside again, creating a little bit more spin from a right to left perspective. If I wanted to create a fade, I'll do the opposite. Club face starts relative to my target line, take my square stance, rotate it to the left so that my body line square stance is now in an open alignment. Allow my arms to swing the golf club on plane, coming from the outside of my target line back to the inside, creating a spin that will go left to right. Well, this really wasn't supposed to be a segment on curvature of the golf ball. I think in order for you to see how the alignments come into play, that's what I'd look at. Now, when you go to play, that's some of the stuff that's probably going to go wrong and you won't know it. You see, this is what ends up happening. You get really good at putting yourself in a square stance, but you don't really understand or have a good sense of what a square alignment is. See, if I'm setting into a square stance, I want to hit the ball there, but my square stance is aimed slightly off to the right. I go to hit a golf ball. the golf ball is allowed to go to the right, and I'm sitting here going, why that happen? I must have made a bad golf swing. Well, the golf swing itself may not have been bad, but since I lined up with my alignment to the right of my target, there's nowhere else the ball should have been allowed to go. I didn't mess up my swing, I messed up with my alignments. That's the value in knowing what you need to do to fix them. Don't always think that the swing has broken down. Sometimes the swing is fine, but your alignments have gotten out of whack. So I want you to start looking at how to practice stance and alignments.